Golden Radio Hour.
You're traveling through another dimension. A dimension not only of sight and sound, but of mind. A journey into a wondrous land whose boundaries are those of imagination. Your next stop, the Twilight Zone.
Trans-East Flight 23, now ready for departure. Please show your boarding passes at the gate.
Ross?
Morning, Stern.
Gonna be a cold one.
Oh, yeah. Ice on the wings all day.
Got your long johns on?
You bet.
I don't believe it.
What?
Where'd you get the fancy hat?
Not this. The wife bought it for me. Fur line and everything. Pretty nice, huh?
Keep your brain from freezing.
Yeah, you wish you had one.
Nah, I already got a brain.
Very funny.
Flight 107 now on approach, landing in approximately 10 minutes. Flight 107 arriving on schedule at Gate 2.
Time to go to work.
As soon as I get me some coffee.
Stern,
Yeah?
you and Ross get out there.
We're going, boss.
On the airfield, now.
What's the big rush?
Flight 107,
What about it?
on the radar.
Repeat, will ya? You're breaking up.
Lost radio contact. Pilot's not responding.
Does he mean 107?
Coming in by the seat of his pants. Get moving. On the dump.
We roger that. Let's do it.
Lost radio contact, huh?
No sweat. Pilot knows the flight plan. Unless they're playing poker up there. Here she comes. Lined up perfect.
Wait a minute. That's not 107.
It's gotta be.
Yeah, but she looks different.
Different how?
Smaller, maybe.
Yeah, right. Wipe your glasses.
Get 23 off the runway. Keep it clear. Stern, walk her back to the gate.
You got it.
Uh-oh, there ain't time. 107's dropping fast.
Well, get out there. Signal her in.
My God, it's a prop plane.
Is that a DC-3?
Mr. Stern is correct. What is about to touch down is a DC-3. Despite the loss of radio contact, not an eventful arrival, which is no surprise. Most airplanes take off and land as per schedule. Very seldom do they crash. But all airplanes can be counted on to do one or the other. It is only on rare occasions that this workhorse hasn't reached its destination at the appointed time. Others like it have flown millions of miles with millions of satisfied passengers. We offer a rather detailed introduction because this DC-3 doesn't belong here. It is an anachronism. You see, DC-3s ceased operating as commercial passenger carriers a number of years ago, to be replaced by more modern designs with jet engines. So where did this ancient example come from? It is an enigma, a 7-ton puzzle made out of aluminum and steel and a few thousand component parts, none of which add up to a satisfactory answer. In just a moment, we're going to give you 90% of the jigsaw. You and the Federal Aviation Agency will assume the problem of finding the missing pieces and putting them all together. This we offer as a tantalizing brain teaser, a little extracurricular diversion, flown in directly from the Twilight Zone.
And now, The Twilight Zone and our story, The Arrival, starring Blair Underwood, with Stacy Keach as your narrator.
Flight 51, you are not cleared for landing. Repeat, not cleared for landing.
Low on fuel. Please advise.
Trans-East 13, maintain holding pattern. Await further instructions.
What's going on down there?
Clearance to land temporarily denied.
Tower, I see an aircraft off starboard at 3,000 feet. Can you identify?
Stay above it. Continue circling.
I have 250 passengers on board.
Will someone please tell me what is going on?
Flight 107's on approach. Here it is on the screen.
So? You have her flight plan?
We've lost radio contact. She's not responding.
Then give her plenty of room. Keep scanning all frequencies.
I've done that, sir. The pilot can't hear us. Or he's passed out.
Do you have a visual?
Not yet. She's dropping fast. lined up and coming in.
She almost clipped a 737. And he says...
Well?
He says it's not a Trans-East plane.
What?
The pilot says it's...
Look out the window.
Let me see what kind of...
That's not Flight 107.
What the?
Must be from an air show.
I don't believe it.
Neither do I.
What the heck is that?
That, son, is a DC-3.
Here it comes.
He's gonna make it.
Oh, you better.
She's down.
Perfect 3 points.
Tell the trucks to back off. We don't need them.
Look at that, right on the mark.
Get the ramp in place.
We don't have a ramp to fit that. Use the ladder.
Over here.
I got it.
Hold it steady.
Right.
Okay, you can open up.
What are they doing in there?
I better give him a hand.
Watch your step.
Hey, inside, let's go. How about it? You need a can opener?
Hey, are they asleep or what?
Must be dead. Hello, DC-3.
Use the manual latch.
It's a real antique.
That's no antique. It's as shiny as the day it was made. Let me off this cart.
Huh? I don't see any crew, sir.
Ross, get the cargo hold open.
Right.
Go on in, Stern.
Yes, sir.
Well?
Well, Mr. Cousins.
Speak up. How many passengers do we have in this crate?
None, sir.
What are you saying? What do we have?
That's just it, sir. We don't have anything.
Hey, Cousins, you better come over here.
What's the matter?
There's no baggage in the hold. Not so much as a piece of paper.
I'm calling Bankston. Somebody get the airport police. Whatever's going on. Stern, how are the crew?
I couldn't say, sir.
Talk sense, man.
Nothing. No passengers. No pilot. No co-pilot. The entire plane is absolutely empty.
Mr. Bingston, I'll take over.
All right, gentlemen, will you knock it off, please? This is Mr. Sheckley from the Federal Aviation Agency. He'll continue the questioning. Is Malloy here yet?
On his way, sir.
Then we'll have to go ahead without him. The rest of you, do me a favor and just stick to the facts. It's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Bankston. First of all, I'd like to say that this is not a formal hearing. It's more the nature of a preliminary meeting. As your operations chief has noted, we're here to unearth as many facts as we can so that we'll know where we stand. And you can save us all a lot of time if you'd avoid any personal hypotheses you may have formed. That way we can keep the air clear and not clutter it up with 6 dozen theories. You see, theories happen to be my business. In 20-odd years with the FAA, I've got a pretty good record of putting together jigsaw puzzles. Maybe not all of them as off the wall as this one, but I'd lay my batting average on the line any day of the week. So don't worry. Whatever the answer is, I'll find it. Now, let's get down to business. Which one of you is, Cousins?
Here, sir.
You were in charge this morning?
Yes, sir.
And you were on duty when Flight 107 arrived?
Flight 107?
Out of Buffalo. That was the scheduled landing for that time, wasn't it?
Yes, sir, but Flight 107's supposed to be an L-1011.
Just answer the man's questions, Cousins.
I'm trying, Mr. Bankston.
Now, you were on duty?
I was, yes.
Anything you observed about the landing that was abnormal?
No, sir. She did it by the book, as far as I could tell.
Who signaled her in?
Ross, over there.
Mr. Ross?
Yeah?
Did you notice anything out of the ordinary?
No, sir. She came in right on the button, followed my signal, stopped on the mark, and then shut off her engines.
Did you see who was piloting?
No, sir, I didn't. That is, I don't remember seeing them.
Couldn't you see through the cockpit windows?
Well, normally when I flag a plane in, my eye's on her mark and any other aircraft on either side. I don't remember actually looking into the windows at all. Not then, anyway.
You weren't on the field alone, were you?
No, sir. Mr. Stern was working with me.
You concur, Mr. Stern, about the landing?
Sure do. Nothing out of the ordinary that I could see.
Thank you. Mr. Bingston, this the manifest?
That looks like it.
And is this the flight plan?
Yes, it appears to be.
Did the dispatcher from Buffalo get here?
Yes, sir.
Good. Good. You want to take a look at this?
Yes, that's the flight plan.
You saw the pilot sign this?
I was at his elbow, sir, this morning at 11:12 a.m.
The pilot was Captain William J. Slocum.
That's right.
And the co-pilot, John O'Brien. That was the first officer's name?
Yes, sir.
You knew both of them?
Yes.
Did you see them board the aircraft?
Well, not exactly, sir. I saw them leave the dispatch office and head toward the field.
But to the best of your knowledge, they were the crew of Flight 107 when it took off from Buffalo at 11:30 this morning?
To the best of my knowledge, but it wasn't a DC-3, that's for sure.
Slocum, O'Brien.
They're good pilots, both of them. Sober, reliable, and...
I'm not casting any stones, Mr. Bingston. It's just that the names seem familiar. I'm not sure from where. It'll come to me. Now, who was on duty in the control tower?
That's me, sir.
You had radio communication during the approach?
Yes, sir.
And then for the landing?
She contacted us over the outer marker, and I gave her clearance. Now, the way I figure it...
Just answer, don't offer.
Well, I was just going to say that when the aircraft checked in over Fulton...
Was that a normal checkpoint?
Yes, sir. And she checked in right on the money. But the transmission sounded a little funny. As a matter of fact, I remember asking for a repeat of position. I couldn't raise him, though.
I see. And did you hear from him again?
Over the next checkpoint, 20 minutes later...
Fulton, you say? Fulton. Huh. Mr. Cousins, you were the first one at the door, right?
No, sir. By the time I got there, Stern was pounding on it. There was no answer.
And Ross had already opened the baggage compartment?
I waited for Cousins. Then I opened her up and I told him that the ship didn't have any baggage.
How about when she loaded up in Buffalo? What was she carrying then?
You got a list there.
I know what I've got. I'm asking you, what baggage was in the aircraft?
When she took off, there were 21 pieces of luggage, 5 sacks of mail, 5 other crates of equipment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that checks.
Sorry I'm late.
Malloy, glad you could make it.
Well, I guess that'll do for now. If I have any more questions, I'll let you know. And I'll see some of you later when I examine the plane. Thank you for coming.
All right, man, back to work. If you're off shift, make sure you can be reached.
And don't talk to the press. Is that clear? Not a word.
Who's this?
I'd like you to meet Paul Malloy. He heads up our public relations.
Public relations, huh? Well, I can't help but wonder. How much public and what kind of relations are you poor guys going to have after this one?
I'll handle it as well as I can under the circumstances. Frankly, I haven't decided what to tell the public yet.
I'll tell you something. Relax. I've got 22 years in the saddle, and I haven't been licked yet. Sometimes the investigation takes a while. A couple of tons of smashed-up metal spread over 50 square miles of countryside, and all it turns out to be is a misplaced air scoop, or maybe a loose bolt in an elevator hinge, or once in a blue moon, it's a pilot who got sick. But it's always something, and that something eventually shows up.
You're talking about crashed aircraft. We're talking about a disappearing act here.
Don't forget a switched plane. Like some kind of Las Vegas magic act.
Look, you don't have to tell me that. I don't know what the wire services are going to make of it, but I've got to tell them something. And I hope you can give me a place to start, because none of this could have happened. An airliner takes off with a full crew and 13 passengers. At least some kind of airliner does, and it lands an hour later with nobody. This is simply not within the realm of possibility.
Mr. Malloy, I have to hand it to you. You're dead right. But the truth is, it's happened. I deal in facts, not probabilities.
But it can't have happened. First of all, an aircraft couldn't land that perfectly with nobody at the controls. Secondly, a plane load of people doesn't just disappear in midair. There has to be an explanation, a legitimate, valid, rational explanation.
I couldn't agree more. And now, I think it's time we go over to the hangar. I'd like to have a look at this magic plane firsthand. Yeah, that should do it. Thanks for showing me around, Mr. Cousins.
Before you go, Mr. Ross here wants to tell you what he thinks happened.
I don't think that's necessary.
No, I'd like to hear it. He was on the scene. What do you have to say, Mr. Ross?
Well, the way I see it, there's only one explanation. Just for a gag, these 13 people had parachutes. They kept them in the baggage compartment. That's why there wasn't any luggage. And someplace between here and Buffalo, they jumped out, like D.B. Sweeney.
That's brilliant. And what happened to the pilots, Mr. Ross? I suppose that part of it's elementary.
Maybe they hid in the restroom, then sneaked out of the plane after we left.
Oh, please.
You're imaginative, Mr. Ross. I'll give you that.
What if?
What if what, Stern?
Nothing. Truth is, it beats me. I'll tell you something else, though. I still feel spooked. Standing here, I felt spooked even worse when I was inside. Just a whole bunch of empty blue seats staring at me.
Look, boys, we've been theorizing for 6 solid hours. Now, I'm just a simple-minded vice president in charge of a medium-sized airport. I've got a passel of newsmen hounding me to death, wanting to know what kind of operation we're running up here.
Tell them to keep their shirts on.
That's what you should be telling them. Or a reasonable facsimile of an explanation. That's what I hired you for, Malloy.
Then you better hire me another head and a couple of sets of arms, because I haven't been off the phone all day. I've had every news service, television network, and even a couple of professional mind readers trying to find out what's the great big mystery we're keeping under wraps. You know how long I can sit on this, Bankston? Maybe another 15 minutes. Then it's going to break open with a bang, and we're going to stand here with rotten eggs all over our faces while Mr. Sheckley's FAA takes our license away from us. Incompetence, mental instability, you name it, and you can have it.
This passenger manifest.
What about it?
You've checked out every name?
I have not. That's all I need now, to have a small army of relatives from upstate New York clutching at my lapels and asking for a definitive statement as to where their loved ones are.
How many calls have you had?
None so far.
You mean to say you haven't had any inquiries yet? Not a single one?
It is strange, isn't it? Not a single inquiry from the families. The plane only arrived 6 hours ago. Maybe they haven't had time to miss their... But I'm kidding myself. Of course some of them would have made an inquiry by now. Those who weren't already waiting at the gate.
There goes that old feeling.
What feeling?
The one I get when I'm on to something. Trouble is, I don't quite know what it means yet. The names on this passenger manifest, they're familiar.
You've seen them before?
I'm not sure. Let me have another look at the inside of this plane.
Sure, but why?
I want to check it out. One more time.
Watch your step. That ladder's tricky.
What's he expect to find in there that he didn't see before?
Something along the lines of a clue, I would hope.
This is a waste of time. We've got to issue some kind of statement before we become a laughingstock.
Ross.
Yeah?
What was it you said?
Oh, for the love of... Why don't we just bring in a psychic?
You mean about the pilot's hiding out?
No, something else. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you said you looked inside the plane when it landed and you saw blue seats.
That was me. I was the first one in.
Right. Mr. Stern, I just walked up the aisle and back again. They are blue.
What kind of nonsense is this?
An hour ago, when I first examined the interior of this aircraft, the seats were brown.
Haven't we got enough trouble without you two starting an argument about interior decoration?
Hey, wait a minute. Where's the serial number on this plane?
On the wing, of course, just as it was the first time you looked.
You see a number on the wing now?
Of course I do.
Read it off to me.
N153802.
You're sure?
I think I can read numbers that large.
Yeah. Can you read this? The notes I took when we got to the hangar. Take a look.
N107793. Now, you must have copied it wrong.
Mr. Stern.
Yeah?
You see a number painted on the tail?
Sure do.
Read it off to me.
What?
I said read it off to me out loud. The numbers on the tail.
If you say so. N664753.
What's this all about?
What did I write down on my clipboard? Mr. Malloy, verify, please.
N107793, the same as Bankston said. I don't see what...
Care to read it again?
What are you trying to prove? That we're going off our rockers now? Seeing different numbers?
That's always where the numbers are on a DC-3, the wing and the tail. When I started in this business, there were quite a few of them still flying. The first one was built in 1935, December 17th to be exact, the anniversary of the Wright brothers. There were hundreds made, and they kept flying for decades.
I don't see what
A real workhorse, this plane. In the Second World War, more than 10,000 were ordered by the military. They called them C-47s. Eisenhower once said there were 4 inventions that won the war: the Jeep, the bazooka, the A-bomb, and the C-47. A few are still operating. It's a design you can trust, as solid as they come.
All very enlightening, but if you don't mind, I have a press release to get out.
Hold on, Mr. Malloy. You wouldn't want to miss this.
What?
Gentlemen, I believe I've finally come up with a theory that fits the facts. Unfortunately, there's only one way I can prove or disprove it.
Why, unfortunately?
Do you have someone who knows how to start this plane?
Certainly any one of my mechanics, but I...
Would you call him over? Now, Bingston.
Miller!
Sir?
Get over here. I don't see what this...
With any luck, we'll all see one way or another. I'm sorry to say that what I'm about to do places me in considerable jeopardy. I hope I'm right. If I'm not, please make sure my wife is notified, will you, Bingston? Mr. Miller.
Yes?
I want you to climb into the cockpit.
Sir?
Then, on my signal, start one of the engines.
If you say so.
For what possible reason?
I'll assume full responsibility. Now, everyone stand as far back as you can. If I'm right, you're about to see something you never imagined possible.
And if you're wrong?
Then you'll see something none of you will ever forget.
Before you begin this experiment of yours, I think we deserve some sort of explanation.
All right. Is everyone here familiar with DC-3s?
Why, of course we are. It was the plane that made commercial air travel possible.
Correct. And your mechanics, your personnel, they've all seen them, worked on them?
Your point is?
Just this. What do you know about the power of suggestion?
What are you driving at, Mr. Sheckley?
Suggestion on a large scale, involving everyone here and on the airport staff. Now, call it mass hallucination, group hypnosis, whatever you want. But I think that's what we're dealing with now.
I thought you deal only in facts.
I do, including facts, not in evidence. Look at the situation. An L-1011 takes off from Buffalo. Somewhere along the flight path, the aircraft loses radio contact. Now, maybe it goes down in an out-of-the-way area. We don't know yet. But you were expecting it to land here. And at the appointed time, someone sees or thinks he sees a blip on the radar. And then, with everybody watching the sky, someone else thinks he spots a silver glint coming in. Only from his angle, it looks sort of like a DC-3. The next thing you know, he's spreading the word. There's your power of suggestion working full force. Bottom line is, everyone has a little hypnosis performed on him without even knowing it.
Why, that's absurd. I'm looking at the plane right now. We're standing next to it.
But are we? Consider the alternative. A modern passenger plane with jet engines changes somehow in mid-flight. And when it lands, it's transformed into an old prop plane. That's impossible, wouldn't you agree? And now, everyone's told us it landed, and that it's supposed to be inside this hangar. That's what everyone says. And every one of us has a picture in his mind of a DC-3 as he knows it. Only, no two memories are identical. Hence, one of you says the seats are blue, another one says they're brown, and another one probably thinks they're red. I read off one number on the wing. 2 other guys see 2 others. Do you understand what I'm saying? If I'm right, then this particular aircraft doesn't exist. It really isn't here at all. Miller.
Yeah?
Fire up the starboard engine.
Mr. Bingston.
Go ahead. Mr. Sheckley seems to be in charge.
Yes, sir.
This is crazy. You're trying to tell us that this is an illusion? Well, I've got a news flash for you. It's as real as I am. You can feel it. You can touch it.
In that case, one of 2 things will happen. Either I'm about to prove to you that you're wrong, or I'm wrong. Dead wrong. If this plane is a product of our collective imaginations, then so are the engines, and so are these propellers. If I stick my hand through them, nothing's going to happen. But if my theory is for the birds and these props are real, then remember what I said, will you? Break it to my wife gently. Ready?
Wait, Sheckley, let's talk this over.
We can talk later.
He can't be serious.
Aren't you going to stop him?
I can't give orders to the FAA.
Rev it up.
What's he gonna do?
Put his hand in the propellers.
Jiminy Christmas, is he nuts or what?
Get those RPMs higher.
Can't look. Good Lord.
He's going to stick his entire arm into the...
Now! You see, gentlemen, I believe I've proven my point.
You okay?
Careful.
Here, I'll help you down.
I'm fine. Still got two hands. A little shaky, but they're both attached.
How'd you do that?
I don't get it. Where's the plane?
Well, it's simple, really. A little melodramatic, perhaps, but it was just as I thought. The plane was a kind of projection all along from our imaginations, our subconscious minds. You might say we believed it into existence.
I could have sworn that...
Yes, you could have. And why not? You've seen DC-3s before?
Plenty of them, but...
So, when everybody told you one was here, you saw it. Clear as can be. We all did. Now, if you don't mind, I think I'd like some fresh air.
What'd it feel like?
Like nothing at all, because that's what was there. Nothing.
So you felt nothing because you didn't expect to.
Something like that.
But you expected to see us, so you still can?
Just like the world outside this hangar. That's plenty real for me.
Well, it's reassuring to know that my airport still exists.
You don't need to stay with me, fellas. I can handle it from here.
What are you going to write in your report?
I'll think of something. I only hope it doesn't get me thrown into this booby hatch.
We'll go back to my office and work out a statement. Mr. Cousins?
Yes, sir?
Take a walk through operations. Don't talk about what just happened. If anyone mentions a DC-3, laugh it off.
Right. Deny.
Will do, sir.
Good man.
No, I have a first-rate staff. You're referring to one man specifically?
Your second in command. What's his name?
I don't know who you mean.
I have it here. Cousins.
You spoke to Cousins?
He was very cooperative. I'd like to make mention of him. And
You can't have spoken to Cousins. I gave him the rest of the day off.
No, that man ahead of us.
Where?
Well, he must be out of the hangar by now. As for the other two, Ross and Stern, they witnessed my little demonstration. I wouldn't recommend they talk to the press. You'll debrief them, Malloy?
Who?
I guess they stayed behind with the man who started the engine.
The engine?
How soon we forget. But that's for the best, I suppose.
So now you've seen our main hangar. Tell me, Mr. Sheckley, what brings you to our facility today? Just passing through, or is it an official visit?
You may have the right idea. To put it out of our minds. But there is one small matter. The FAA, if I can work out a version that jives with Mr. Malloy's...
Malloy, did you say?
Well, he's right over...
Where?
The one who was walking next to you.
I don't see anyone.
What is this? Some kind of disappearing act? Malloy from PR. I'm Sheckley. Got it? And you're... Bingston. Bingston, where are you?
May I help you?
Where is Bingston?
Mr. Bankston's in his office, but you can't go in without...
What?
Bingston, what happened to you? What happened to everybody?
And you would be...
Don't give me that.
Ah, yes. Sheckley, isn't it? From the FAA. I think I remember you. We've met before.
Is this a gag?
Have a seat. Is there a problem?
Problem? Are you kidding? One minute there's a hangar full of men and an aircraft, and the next minute I prove that not only doesn't the aircraft exist, but...
I don't follow. What doesn't exist?
But that all of the rest of it all of you.
Are you sick, Sheckley, or drunk? You don't look very good. Sit down, man.
Where's Malloy?
Still in his office, I presume.
Then you'd better call him in here. He's got a few things to answer to, just like the rest of you.
Kimberly.
Sorry about that man, sir. Should I call security?
That won't be necessary. Ask Malloy to come to my office, will you, if he hasn't gone home for the night?
Yes, sir.
We've had a busy day here, Mr. Sheckley, but my PR man handled it admirably. The evening paper just arrived.
Let me see that. Lovely Hollywood star Penny Jackson arrived from Buffalo this morning on tour to promote her latest film. What is this?
Malloy coordinated everything. Photographers, reporters. Quite a scene we had here.
I was just on my way out. Who's this?
Who am I? What is this? How could they have taken this picture? The flight from Buffalo this morning. How could they say it landed when...
When what? You know this guy?
Mr. Sheckley, this is Paul Malloy, our public relations man.
I know who he is. What in God's name is going on here?
Maybe you better tell us. What's so odd about a picture on the front page of the local paper?
What's so odd? That has to be Flight 107, Bingston. Didn't that flight arrive this morning with nobody on it? No crew, no passengers, no baggage?
No, Mr. Sheckley. Flight 107 landed on schedule.
You mean to stand there and tell me you are not missing an aircraft?
That's exactly what he's telling you, mister. We're not missing Trans-East 107 or any other flight.
How could that be? You never missed Flight 107.
That's right. At least not recently. You of all people should know that, Sheckley.
Know what?
You're confusing the two. I remember now. That's why you looked familiar to me when you walked in. You were the examiner on the other one.
What other one?
We've had one flight lost in some 20-odd years. Just one.
Flight 107.
Right. But, Mr. Sheckley, that must be 17, 18 years ago.
Flight 107 out of Buffalo.
Out of Buffalo. An old DC-3, but like I said, it was a long, long time ago.
What's all this about? What happened to her?
Lost in a fog and never found. We always figured she veered off course, ended up over the ocean, and went down.
You never found her?
Not a trace. And Mr. Sheckley here investigated the disappearance, but that's one case he's never been able to close. Nobody has. It just sits in the record books as lost, presumed crashed.
For reasons unknown.
And it's never stopped eating at you. It still is. So you came back here today looking for an explanation, any explanation, so you could finally put it to rest.
I've never been licked on a case. Never. We've always found the cause.
Mr. Sheckley, why don't you let someone drive you home?
Never. We've always found the cause. Always, I tell you.
Is he going to be all right?
I honestly hope so.
Flight 107, 13 people. Pilot William J. Slocum, co-pilot John O'Brien. I never forgot your names. What went wrong? I have to know. Where did you go now? Where are you? Where are you now? Where are you? Hey, Flight 107, why didn't you leave me a clue? Any clue at all? What? Are you out there somewhere? You gotta be. You gotta be.
For those in need of an explanation, there's always the obvious one. Simply that of a man with an Achilles heel. A mystery that once landed in his life and robbed him of his peace. A perpetually missing aircraft that disappeared with no clues, leaving an unanswered question in Mr. Sheckley's neatly ordered world. A heavy burden to carry through the years, made up of one part enigma and one part the knowledge of his own failure. Until it ultimately took the form of an illusion. At least that's the clinical answer, the one they'll write on his case file as he goes off for a well-deserved rest. Or consider this. Maybe, just maybe, a plane did touch down, however briefly, before it disappeared again. a kind of airborne Flying Dutchman, a ghost ship lost in a fog-shrouded night on a flight that never ends. Take your pick, but the latter is more conducive to the rules and regulations of the Twilight Zone.
Hi, this is Carl Amari, producer of the Twilight Zone radio dramas. I'd like to take a moment to tell you about our official website at twilightzoneradio.com, where you'll get the latest news and information on these Twilight Zone radio dramas. Plus, at twilightzoneradio.com, you can digitally download 3 free episodes or any of our episodes for only $1.95 each. In this age of ever-changing technology, we've decided to make these episodes instantly available to you by making the Twilight Zone radio dramas a digital download-only series. This means that this series will no longer be offered on CD. The CD collections at our website are now being offered while supplies last at buy one, get one free. So be sure to get your favorites before they're sold out. Be sure to visit us often, and I'll see you in the zone.
The Arrival, starring Blair Underwood, with Stacy Keach as your narrator, was adapted for radio by Dennis Etchison and written for The Twilight Zone by Rod Serling. Heard in the cast were Christian Stolte, Craig Brawley, Jeff Lupetin, James Schneider, Derek Procell, Turk Muller, Kurt Nabig, Karen Olson, Carl Amari, Roger Wolski, and Vince Amari. To learn more about the Twilight Zone radio dramas and to obtain audio cassettes and CDs of these programs, visit our website at twilightzoneradio.com. The producers of The Twilight Zone wish to thank CBS Enterprises, Carol Serling, Dennis Etchison, Dick Brescia Associates, Claire Simon Casting, Terry Jennings, XM Satellite Radio, Sirius Satellite Radio, our sponsors, and our radio affiliates for helping make this series possible. This copyrighted radio series is produced and directed by Carl Amari for Falcon Picture Group. Doug James speaking.
You're traveling through another dimension. A dimension not only of sight and sound, but of mind. A journey into a wondrous land whose boundaries are those of imagination. Your next stop, the Twilight Zone.
This is the Emergency Broadcast Network. The Office of Civil Defense has just announced a red alert. Enemy missiles are approaching the United States. Repeat, this is a red alert. Enemy missiles are approaching the United States at a high rate of speed. Arrival time is estimated at only a few minutes from now. All citizens are advised to get off the streets immediately and take cover. This is not a test. Repeat, this is not a test. The first missiles have just hit. Are we still on the air? How long do we have? Good Lord! It's actually happening. This is real, folks. This is not a test. This is real.
How's that, Mr. Radin?
It should do nicely. The volume could be a bit higher, though.
Higher? You gotta be careful not to break those speakers.
I thought you installed subwoofers, state-of-the-art, as I requested.
Oh, we did. For later. Wait till you hear them. When the explosion hits here, you'll really feel it.
Good. Good.
I don't know where you got your sound effects, but you'd swear a bomb was going off outside. I mean a big bomb.
That's precisely what I want.
I got the other TV hooked up, sir, at the end of the hall, like you said.
Let me see.
Here's the remote control. You got your on, and then you got your off and your volume.
Did you load the videotape?
Sure did. As soon as the monitors go on, it starts rolling.
Why don't you show me?
All right, Mr. Radin. Let's give it a test run.
Look at that, would you? There's the street outside. Only now it looks like the beginning of World War III.
Yes. Yes. This calls for something of a celebration.
if you don't mind me asking, where'd you get the footage? Some special effects guys out in Hollywood?
Oh, you might say I have my contacts. Given adequate funding, anything is possible.
Yeah, some setup you got here. All part of the show, huh?
This is not a show. It may be, let us say, an illusion. But this room is not an illusion. It happens to be the best designed bomb shelter on the face of the earth.
But tonight it's for gags, right?
Something of the sort. A practical joke, and I trust a most effective one.
You could say that again, Mr. Raiden. When those sound effects start and that stuff goes on the TV, you'd swear the whole world was getting blasted.
That's the general idea. I've got 3 guests coming this evening, rather special guests, and I wouldn't want them to be disappointed.
Well, it fooled me, and I put most of the wiring in.
A drink before you go, gentlemen? To a job well done?
No thanks. It's getting pretty late.
Are these friends of yours?
How's that?
You're doing all this to fool 3 of your friends. They must be, they must be real, like, special friends.
Oh, they are. They are indeed very special friends. This, in a sense, is the moment a man lives his entire life for.
Yeah, I bet. That about it, Mr. Raiden?
Yes, I'd say that just about does it.
Well, we gotta go. So long, Mr. Raiden. Good luck on your party.
Party? Yes. You might call it the best party ever.
Bye, Mr. Raiden.
That guy gives me the heebie-jeebies.
I know what you mean.
This has got to be the #1 kook in the whole country. I mean, can you imagine a guy spending that kind of a bundle just to set up a phony atom bomb explosion?
And the whole thing's set to go off at 11:45. Some kind of fanatic is he, huh? What's his angle?
Practical joke, maybe, like he said.
Yeah, the $500,000, that's some joke. Hey, hit the button, will you?
Yeah, sure. It's a funny thing.
What?
If they was to drop a bomb, if the whole world was to go up for real, it'd be kind of a pity if the one guy left alive was somebody like him.
Wow, no kidding. Well, hey, here comes the elevator. Live and let live. That's what I always say.
Yeah, you got that right.
Let's get out of here and grab some chow.
Now you're talking. Going up?
Oh, yeah. Hard to get used to, ain't it?
This is the basement of a fashionable midtown skyscraper and office building. It's owned and occupied by one Paul Raiden, whom you've just met. Mr. Raiden is rich, eccentric, and single-minded. How rich, we can already surmise. How eccentric and single-minded, we shall see in a moment. Because you have just been invited to a very special party, catered and conducted exclusively for residents of the Twilight Zone.
And now, The Twilight Zone and our story, One More Pallbearer, starring Chelsea Ross, with Stacy Keach as your narrator.
And here's the main course, dear. Baked fish, just the way you like it.
Splendid.
Would you care for some more milk?
Not just yet, Mary. Sit down, please.
Oh, who could that be?
I'll get it.
No, you won't. I hope it's not one of the parishioners.
Wait here.
But you've been on your feet all day.
Dinner will keep.
Nonsense. I'll see to it, dear. Oh, yes, I'll tell him at once.
Who is it?
The most peculiar man.
What did he want?
I'm not sure, but there's a limousine waiting at the curb. He said something about a matter of life and death.
Odd, isn't it? He said exactly the same thing to me.
And beyond that, Colonel, you've been told nothing.
Hardly a word. The driver appeared at the club, something about an old acquaintance.
And you, madam?
I'm as much in the dark as you are. I was busy grading papers when
That very strange man in the front seat came to my door. It sounded terribly urgent.
I'll have a word with him. Driver!
Yes, sir.
Where, may I ask, are you taking us?
Be there soon, sir.
Yes, but where? Who do you work for?
My employer wishes to remain anonymous.
Well, isn't this mysterious? Like an Agatha Christie novel.
But surely you can tell us if there's a life in the balance.
Here we are.
Where the devil?
A very nice part of town by the looks of it.
Please exit from the right of the vehicle.
See here, if this is some sort of joke.
I assure you, sir, it's no joke.
Yet you can't even tell me who gave you your orders.
It is an impressive building.
You may use the private elevator.
I know this building. That fountain.
Elevator? To what floor? This one has only one button, and it says down.
I'll enter the code for you.
Well, if it doesn't go up, then it must go
the other way, of course.
This is outrageous. I demand that you return me to the officers' club at once. Driver? Driver!
It appears that we've been left to our own devices.
It was ever thus. After you, madam.
What in the...
Good evening, friends.
That voice.
If you'd be so kind, just follow the hall to the security door at the end of the hall.
There's something vaguely familiar about the tone, but I can't quite...
Enough. It's time to find out what this is all about.
That's right. Just come in, if you will.
See here.
Do sit down and make yourselves comfortable.
Wait, I remember now. Yes.
The accommodations are a bit Spartan, but I trust you'll find them adequate for your needs.
How good of you to come. Colonel Hawthorne, Reverend Hughes, and of course, Mrs. Langsford. I'm delighted to see you all. What? Such blank faces? Don't tell me you've forgotten.
It's Raiden, isn't it? Aren't you Paul Raiden?
You have an excellent memory, Reverend. And how about you, Colonel? Do you recognize me?
Yes, I believe I do. You served with me once, didn't you?
I did indeed. A second lieutenant.
Yes.
In an infantry regiment under your command.
I recall it vaguely, and I seem to recall something else, too.
It's not surprising that it doesn't come flooding back. After all, you had a few thousand men under you, a few thousand cogs in the great military machine. I was only one of those cogs. But then again, you didn't court-martial all of them, did you? That distinction you reserved for me alone.
Oh, yes, I do recall now. You refused to lead an assault on a hill.
Did I?
Refused in the face of a direct order. The delay cost us a company of men.
That was your contention at the court-martial board. It's what sealed my fate. I was dishonorably discharged, Colonel, stripped of rank and booted out.
How fortunate for you.
Fortunate, you say?
Were I permitted to dictate the sentence, I would have had you shot.
Of this I have no doubt. No doubt at all. But what kind of host am I?
Oh, for pity's sake, Paul.
I must apologize. There's a lady present. Please forgive me for not addressing you first, Mrs. Langsford. Do you recall who I am?
Of course I do. I taught you in high school.
Well done.
I don't forget my students. Oh, now and then I find that they get jumbled together.
Of course.
But if I prod my memory a bit, I'm able to connect names with faces. And in your case, with character.
I made an impression on you, did I? That's understandable. Because you flunked me, Mrs. Langsford.
I certainly did.
You dressed me down in front of an entire class, called me names, humiliated me.
And quite deservedly so.
Ah, but that's neither here nor there. I invited you here this evening for another purpose than to dredge up old animosities.
Invited? I can't speak for my companions, Raiden, but the request I received was more in the form of an ultimatum. Your chauffeur said it was a matter of utmost urgency.
Why, yes. Yes, indeed. That's the way it was broached to me, too. A matter of life and death. I was eating dinner, and my wife Mary got up to answer the door. And when she came back, she had such an odd expression on her face.
Ah, Reverend Hughes. Still a bit on the wordy side, aren't you? It never ceases to amaze me, really, how changeless we remain over the years. But I suppose the habits of a lifetime are not that easily set aside, now are they?
Perhaps you'll be good enough, Paul, to get to the point and tell us why we're here.
I'd be delighted to. But first, can't I get you something? A highball, perhaps, or a cup of coffee for the Reverend. How do you take it, black or white?
Nothing, thank you.
Paul, you're trying my patience.
Habits, Mrs. Langsford. The incredible persistence of habits. You call me Paul, as if I were still sitting in your classroom. What about you, a nice cup of tea?
Nothing for me.
And you, Colonel, a tot of rum, perhaps?
I would be deeply appreciative, Mr. Raiden, if you made your point and then let us leave. You've obviously called us here for something, and I, for one, would welcome hearing whatever it is without further delay.
How staunch, how commanding you sound, Colonel. The military mind never changes either.
See here.
Always pressing forward. Drive, drive, drive against the objective and wipe it out. Colored flags stuck in a map and troops stuck out in the hot sun. An officer must have nerves made of steel and a head full of cement.
As you were, Raiden.
Oh, no, Colonel. Not as I was, as I am. Which rather upsets the chain of command, don't you think? Because I'm in command now, and what I command at this moment is your attention. You see, I've called the three of you here for a very specific purpose.
I think I'm beginning to understand.
Of course you are. Always so intelligent, so insightful. Let's do it in proper chronology. My dear old schoolmarm shall begin. That staunch and intrepid educator who would look so incongruously out of place without those severe spectacles covering those severe eyes looking out of an equally severe face, who possesses such vast prerogatives from the local school board and the vast courage that comes from pitting all her wits and training and knowledge against poor captive children.
Are you quite finished, Paul?
My dear lady, I haven't even begun.
May I make an observation, then?
You have permission to speak. Would you like to address the class?
Oh, just a comment, Paul, on how incredible this whole thing is. That a man like yourself, a millionaire many times over, a big, important man who walks with kings and heads of state and industrial tycoons...
You followed my career. How gratifying.
How incredibly tiny a mind this kind of man must have to dwell on an incident in a high school classroom of some 20-odd years ago, and to let it fester inside of him, as it's done with you.
I've never liked humiliation, Mrs. Langsford, whether it occurred 20 years ago or in the past 10 minutes.
Humiliation? All right, Paul, let's talk of humiliation. Let's talk of your humiliation. Mr. Raiden was caught cheating during an examination, caught red-handed. Oh, not a federal crime, of course, but perhaps just a bit commentative on the nature of the person. And when accused of the act, he tried to plant his crib sheet on an innocent student. How right you are, Mr. Raiden, that I stood you up on your feet and in front of the entire class I told you what you were.
But no room then, was there, Mrs. Langsford, for just a moment of compassion? An iota of sympathy for a frightened and desperate boy?
Oh, Mr. Raiden, I've dealt with frightened and desperate children all my life. And it might surprise you to know that I've given them more sympathy and compassion than learning. But neither sympathy nor compassion can be handed out wholesale like cheap bubblegum. The recipient must be worthy of them, and you never were. You were a devious, dishonest troublemaker, And for all your millions, my guess is that you are still devious, you are still dishonest, and I have no doubt that even now you're a troublemaker.
You haven't changed either, Mrs. Langsford.
Mr. Raiden, after so many years, what can be gained by...
A great deal can be gained, Reverend. A great deal.
But surely...
You can go to the devil, Reverend.
Raiden!
You too, Colonel. And that's not a figure of speech. Tonight, my friends, just a few short minutes from now, you all most assuredly can and will go to the devil.
Mr. Raiden, obviously years have passed between now and whenever it was you felt you suffered various indignities at our hands.
Felt? How conveniently you forget the extent of my suffering. You, for example, accused me of lack of character, and worse, you put a scandal over my head and all but destroyed my reputation.
I do remember now. A young girl whom you drove to suicide, because even at that early stage, you were not a man to hold honor in very high regard.
So merciless and so judgmental. What of her responsibility, her character? You're far from consistent in your dispensation of forgiveness. No, the robes of a man of God never became you, Reverend. For all your pious pronouncements, they never quite fit.
Enough of this. I'm getting out of here, now.
You can try, Colonel.
This is outrageous.
Save your strength. You're going to need it.
Open this door at once.
The doors don't answer to your command, only to mine. They're made of solid steel. The walls are 18 inches of reinforced concrete sheathed in 6 inches of lead. I have my own generator plant, my own air system, and at the other end of the hall, a storeroom the size of a warehouse stocked with food and supplies.
But in God's name, why? What are you afraid of?
Afraid? Hardly. Prudent might be a more accurate word. Remember the story of the 3 little pigs, houses of straw and so forth, and only one built to withstand the blast.
Blast? What blast?
Colonel, you of all people should understand logistics. Does it occur to you why a man would go to all this trouble and expense?
You've built what amounts to be a bunker.
So I have.
But we're not at war.
Not at this precise moment.
You're insane.
Am I?
This is the middle of the city.
Ah, now you're getting warm, closer to the point.
What are you talking about?
About beginning a vigil, my friends. The long wait and the countdown to oblivion.
Will you start making sense? I taught you better than this gibberish.
You are correct, Mrs. Langsford, about several things. I've walked with kings and tycoons, as you so rightly perceived. I've walked with them, and more importantly, I've listened to them, to the things they have to say, the special knowledge they are able to impart because of their positions of privilege. As a result, I manage to keep abreast of the times and usually well ahead of them.
The point.
Patience, Reverend. I'm coming to it. You see, I know things that are going to happen. I pay informants, couriers, high-level attachés and the like for a service, information. And I pay them quite handsomely, I might add.
What sort of information?
Oh, the inner workings of certain, let us say, diplomatic agencies, military installations, information that's beyond top secret, but available if the price is right.
You're engaged in espionage.
Hear me out. 48 hours ago, I received a most interesting bit of news, or rather, several bits, meaningless in themselves, that together form one unavoidable conclusion, something that is known to perhaps only 6 men in the world.
If you're trying to frighten us, it isn't working.
Then let me give it a somewhat finer edge. This evening, this very evening, the world is coming to an end.
Why, of all the...
At 11:45, there will be no more city. No more country.
Rubbish.
Oh, it was inevitable, don't you think? After so many years, so many weapons stockpiled, someone somewhere was bound to become impatient, to finally push the button that brings us to the reward we so justly deserve. And make no mistake about it, we all do. It began when we were born into this cesspool called life. The original fall from grace, from which there is no escape. The earth is an empty graveyard waiting to be filled, and tonight it will be.
What a cynical, depraved view of humanity.
By 30 minutes after midnight, there will be no more humanity. It's too late to stop. Pandora's box has been opened. There's no turning back. They are going to bomb us, and we are going to bomb them. By dawn, there will be nothing left but rubble and bodies. And now, within a few moments, it begins. You'll be hearing the sirens very shortly. That's the red alert. It means their missiles are on the way. Ours will follow soon after with proper military efficiency.
And you are to survive, Mr. Raiden. Is that the idea?
I am to survive, as long as I stay here 300 feet under the ground.
Already buried, one might say.
How about you, Reverend Hughes? Or the rest of you? Would you care to survive too? Or shall I be the only pallbearer?
What?
It can't be.
Don't panic. This whole thing may be a hoax.
Please remain seated. If you require proof, I'll turn on the radio.
This is the Emergency Broadcast Network. The Office of Civil Defense has just announced a red alert. Enemy missiles are approaching the United States. Repeat, this is a red alert. Enemy missiles are approaching the United States at a high rate of speed. Arrival time is estimated at only a few minutes from now. All citizens are advised to get off the streets immediately and take cover. This is not a test. Repeat, this is not a test. The first missiles have just hit. Are we still on the air? How long do we have? Good Lord! It's actually happening! This is real, folks! This is not a test! This is real!
Comments? Perhaps a little military sophistry now, Colonel. A quote from General Grant or Lee or Patton. And you, Reverend, something enriching from the gospel? Oh, my, such silence, Mrs. Langford. Nothing in that vast reservoir, that Pilgrim's Progress mind of yours to fit this situation? No mental eraser you can use to wipe out reality?
I've got to get to my wife.
Oh, by all means, Reverend. Certainly, get to your wife. Hold hands and die together.
Take your hands off me.
You turn my stomach, Reverend Hughes. You know that. Find your wife.
I intend to.
That's not what's on your mind. What's on your mind is what's on the Colonel's mind and the school marms over there. Your precious hide, your sanctified flesh. That's what preoccupies you at this moment.
Let go of me, Mr. Raiden. If I'm to die tonight, I want to be with someone I love.
Very theatrical, Reverend Hughes, but far more burlesque, I'm afraid, than legitimate theater.
Kindly have the decency.
Why don't you have the decency, Reverend, to depart this earth with just a fragment of the truth in your mouth?
What truth?
Tell me to my face that you are so scared, so miserably frightened, that you'd sell your wife by the pound if it meant your survival. Admit it.
If those were the last words I ever spoke, Mr. Raiden, they would also stand as the worst falsehood I ever uttered while living.
Why am I not convinced?
Will you open the door, Mr. Raiden? Will you let me leave now?
Take a look at the monitor first. You might want to consider what awaits you outside before you open that door.
How did you know, Raiden? How could you possibly have known exactly when?
What difference does it make? If we leave now, we might make it back to our homes.
Highly unlikely at this point, but I suppose hope springs eternal. Oh, of course, Mrs. Langsford, back home to your aging sister, no doubt. And you, Colonel, back to the club so you could die with your cronies amid all your medals and memorabilia.
Whatever we do, it's none of your concern.
My dear friends, shall we drop the pretense now, this instant? Shall we all of us now dare to speak the truth? I told you how this room was constructed, steel, concrete, and lead. It is the only place where you can survive. Now, what is all this nonsense about going back to your homes? You mean to say you'd walk out of here to certain death, when by simply staying where you are, you're assured that you'll live?
Are we to understand, Mr. Raiden, that you will permit us this luxury? That you will allow us to stay in your fortress?
Oh, indeed. Indeed, Colonel. As a matter of fact, it's precisely why I asked you all to come. Each of you, in your own way, tried to destroy me. But I will not repay the compliment in like kind. That is to say, I won't require an eye for an eye. Nothing quite as basic, as naked as that.
Then I'd be interested, Mr. Raiden. What is your price?
The Colonel would be interested. I should think so. And I presume the schoolmarm and the Reverend, too, would be interested. I submit, dear friends, that you're not just interested. It's the only single thing on God's earth that has any meaning left. How much will Raiden charge so you can stay here in safety? All right, my friends, here's the all-important price tag. The fiddler has played, and here comes the bill for the music. But be sure to listen carefully, because time is very rapidly running out.
Say it, man. What is your price?
You will, each of you, each one of you in turn, beg my pardon, ask my forgiveness, and if need be, you'll get down on your hands and knees to perform that function.
Is that all?
That's all.
Our Father who art in heaven.
I suggest you prepare your requests without delay. The first bombs have just exploded somewhere near the city. I assure you, the next ones won't miss. Did you hear what I said? I need your decisions now.
Say pretty please.
I beg your pardon?
Pretty please with sugar on it.
How's that, teacher? Speak up.
Pretty please with sugar on it, Mr. Raiden. It's what children say to exact a favor. Children, Mr. Raiden, but they say it by rote. It comes out pure. There's no meanness to it, no cruelty. That's something that comes much later in life. The capacity to damage other human beings.
That's enough.
Not quite. You let me out of here, Mr. Raiden. If I'm to spend my last quarter hour on Earth, I'd rather it be with a stray cat, or alone in Central Park, or with a city full of strangers whose names I'll never know.
Have you lost your mind?
The door, Mr. Raiden. Will you open the door now?
You heard them.
Heard what? Stubbornness for its own sake? Sheer contrariness? Absolute irrationality in the face of that?
Open up, Raiden.
Yes, open it.
You're too blind, or you're too stupid. That must be it, because none of you understand how simple it is. All you have to do, literally all you have to do, is to say a sentence. Just a string of silly, mindless words, like a command, Colonel, like a prayer, Reverend, like a lesson. Nothing more than that. All you have to say is that you're sorry.
I have nothing to be sorry for. You deserve that, court-martial, and more. I'll hardly withdraw my complaint now.
And I, Mr. Raiden, pity you that you still can't see the error of your ways. May God have mercy on your soul.
All right. You want to go out there and die? Go! But you'll all be back inside of 5 minutes. There's the elevator. Go ahead, use it. Carry the farce to its conclusion.
Stand aside.
Where are you going? Up there? To what?
As far away from here as I can get.
Do you hear that? Are you deaf? You still want to go up on the street? Why? To get a good look at the frenzy and the panic and the horror before you come back down here to your only salvation.
Move away from the elevator.
But you don't need to see it firsthand. Watch it from here on the monitor. You can see it happen, the whole thing. Watch as your world is shoveled into a grave and covered over.
Move, or I shall be forced to move you.
You fool.
After you, ma'am.
Last chance. I mean it. It's your last chance. What about it, Hughes? Is life so stinking cheap you can throw it down a drain? No, it's not true. This is no fantasy. You'll be back. You'll see. You'll be back.
This is the Emergency Broadcast Network. The Office of Civil Defense has issued a red alert. The United States is under enemy attack. The first wave of bombers and long-range missiles slipped through our defenses by unknown means and are on the approach now. Evacuation procedures are underway in all major cities. The President will make an announcement as soon as... This is real, ladies and gentlemen. This is not a drill. This is not a test. This is an actual emergency.
What? That's not what he's supposed to say.
We interrupt our regularly scheduled programming to bring you this live coverage. Just before midnight this evening, several of the country's major population centers suffered missile attacks, resulting in severe casualties. Siege mentality. Unconfirmed report of nuclear detonations. The White House, the Midwest, the coast. We will remain on the air for as long as...
What's wrong with this? Off! I want this tape off! That's enough. That is quite enough.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is my last assignment as a broadcaster. I can see the bombs going off. And now they're streaking down, lighting up the sky, heading directly for us. A great wind from the firestorm. If you can hear me, I want my wife and daughter to know that I love them very much.
No! 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 No, please. I didn't mean for it to actually happen. There's nothing left. Nothing. The city is gone. Is there no one else alive? Somebody? Anybody?
What's wrong with him?
Must be drunk.
Poor man, he looks crazy.
Yeah, look at his eyes. What's he crying?
All right, Mac, get up. Hey, Mac, what's the matter with you? Got a little too much to drink, huh? On a beautiful night like this. Well, now, let me take you home. Where do you live? Can you tell me that?
I didn't want it this way. Won't somebody listen to me? Isn't there anyone left in the world who can hear me? Someone! Someone!
This is Saunders. I'm in front of the Raiden building. You want to send a car over here right away? Some poor devil's lying on the ground off his rocker. No ID. Yeah, it could be anybody. Yeah, okay. It's okay, Mac. Help's on the way. Now, why don't you come on over here and sit down by the fountain? That's right in front of this nice building. You weren't gonna try taking a bath in it, were you?
No.
Because then I'd have to arrest you, and I wouldn't want to do that. Can you hear me? Can't you even tell me where you live? You know where you are? Anything around here look familiar at all?
What happened to him?
Another nutcase.
Never saw him.
Is he deaf or blind?
Okay, folks, let's move along. Move right along. Give the poor fella some breathing space till the ambulance gets here. Easy, Mac. Take it easy. You're gonna be okay.
No, somebody, anybody.
Anybody left alive in all this rubble? Not another human being anywhere in all the world? Please, please, please. Oh, please, God, oh, please.
Mr. Paul Radin, a dealer in fantasy and human misery, especially his own. Trapped in the graveyard of his mind, and now, as it has always been for him, the only person in the world. The sole pallbearer at a funeral he alone manufactured, in a bleak and empty landscape called the Twilight Zone.
Hi, this is Carl Amari, producer of the Twilight Zone radio dramas. I'd like to take a moment to tell you about our official website at twilightzoneradio.com, where you'll get the latest news and information on these Twilight Zone radio dramas. Plus, at twilightzoneradio.com, you can digitally download 3 free episodes or any of our episodes for only $1.95 each. In this age of ever-changing technology, we've decided to make these episodes instantly available to you by making the Twilight Zone radio dramas a digital download-only series. This means that this series will no longer be offered on CD. The CD collections at our website are now being offered while supplies last at buy one, get one free. So be sure to get your favorites before they're sold out. Be sure to visit us often, and I'll see you in the zone.
One More Pallbearer, starring Chelsea Ross, with Stacy Keach as your narrator, was adapted for radio by Dennis Etchison and based on a script by Rod Serling. Heard in the cast were David Darlow, Meg Thalken, Rich Komanik, Turk Muller, Norm Woodell, Jeff Lupetin, Roderick Peoples, and Lawrence Nepidal. To learn more about the Twilight Zone radio dramas and to obtain audio cassettes and CDs of these programs, visit our website at twilightzoneradio.com. This copyrighted radio series is produced and directed by Carl Amari and Roger Wolski for Falcon Picture Group. Doug James speaking.
Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe.